Hey everyone, what's up? Today is my Political Fridays. Now, I do know that I said I was going to be doing politics, but I'm going to be talking kind of about economics and politics. So, I'm going to be talking today about our Federal Reserve, Mr. Ben Bernanke. Now, I'm just looking here at the Drudge Report, and biggest outlining is no joke. Foreign banks took most from Fed, Bernanke kept secret. Now, what does this mean? Basically, if any of you have been paying attention, over the past year and a half to 2 years, the Federal Reserve has been doing something called quantitative easing, or basically printing money. Now, the reason that we've been making our own money up and kind of just printing it out of nowhere is because we're in debt. We have to, try to pay off all of these unfunded securities like Social Security, Medicare, all these entitlement programs. And to go in with that, right here, another story right on the Drudge Report, it says that more Americans now work for the government than manufacturing, farming, fishing, forestry, mining, and utilities combined. So what that is doing is it is creating a society of entitlements, a society of dependent people dependent on the government. Now, the founders of the United States, the writers of the Constitution, they felt the United States should be a place of free market economy, of freedom, of not being tied to a specific entity like a government. I mean, that's the whole point of the United States, was to be free from the king. The whole point was you worked for the king. Pretty much you were almost the ownership and property of the king, not directly, but through taxes, through levies, through tariffs, through working for him. I mean, today it's no different. Now, instead of the king, we have Barack Obama. I mean, might as well just put a crown on his head and put some glittery rubies on it. I mean, because he's the same thing. And what does that do? It creates, again, a society of entitlements. Now, if any of you have been following what's been going on out in Utah, Utah has been trying to pass some legislation which should be going through, just has to be signed by the governor of Utah, to allow gold and silver to be considered legal tender again. Now, whenever the Constitution was written, it was written with the intent that only gold and silver could be coined, and those were the only things which the states could use for currency. It doesn't say, well, then people say, oh, well, it just says the states can only use that for currency. It doesn't say that the Federal Reserve or the federal government can't. Well, the thing is, there's no power granted to the Federal Reserve or the federal government allowing them to create this paper money. This money which has really no value at all. Because whenever you get down to it, our currency, all of our money that all of us work so hard for, it is only worth the paper it's printed on, which last time I checked is not worth anything. I mean, it's kind of like cotton, so you can't even wipe your butt with it. I mean, it's less valuable than toilet paper, really. Whereas originally money was meant to be tangible. It was meant to be something that it couldn't be reproduced. You could just technically go and do what the Fed's doing. Just go buy a printer, copier, scanner, put it in, hit print 1 trillion times. You got yourself $1 trillion. I mean, originally money was meant to be something like gold. So gold coin, you can't just go print or copy a gold coin. And if you make a forge, it's pretty easy to tell that it's a forgery. So you had to work for it. It kept the system honest. Now there is no honest system. And this all just goes back to that whole thing that, I mean, sorry, I got a little bit off track. But again, Utah is doing this because they know that the Federal Reserve is just going to keep printing money. It's going to keep devaluing our dollar. I mean, just in a recent news story today, Walmart came out and the CEO said that we're going to have to raise prices. Inflation's coming. We can't keep our prices this cheap now. You'll be hearing about this in the news, and people will be outraged that Walmart, those greedy capitalist bastards, are raising prices. They're not raising prices. They're not. Our money's not worth anything. I mean, oil today hit an all-time record. It's over $108 a barrel. That's the highest it's been since 2008. That's why gasoline is so high. Now, the reason oil is so high, it's not that it's really that high. Production's the same. Oil prices in relative to gold, to real money, are actually about the same. You look at it like a 50-year timeline. The price of oil has been pretty much steady. You look at the 50-year timeline, is oil to dollars, and it's been steadily increasing. Why? Our money is steadily worth less and less. So whenever the news comes on and says that these evil capitalists, these evil Halliburton, they're raising oil prices, OPEC, they're cutting production. They're not really cutting production. The Middle East, how would you feel if you had a neighbor who owed you all this money, who kept buying your cake? You made awesome cake. And he kept being like, oh, here you go, here's some more money. But all that money he's giving you is not worth anything. So you have to keep raising your price. Well, they keep getting mad because they think that you're, screwing them out of money. You're not. All the things that you're taking to make this awesome cake are going up in price. So you have to charge him more for the cake to be really worth the same amount. And that's what a lot of people just don't understand. And Utah is not the only state doing this. North Carolina is also looking at making gold and silver legal tender. Now, what does the Federal Reserve and the federal government say about this? Well, they're not very happy about it, obviously, because, as we know, for example, I'll pull one out for us. This right here is a silver $50. All right? Now, this itself, face value is 50 cents. It's a $50. Now, the Federal Reserve, now in all actuality, this is actually worth about $6. In actuality, the Federal Reserve, if the states were allowed to then start using gold and silver coins to trade, as if you're buying, let's say someone went and sold a house and they wanted 15,000 silver dollars. Now, it sounds very reasonable, right? Now, technically, 15,000 silver dollars is the same as 15,000 US dollars. But the person just wants them in the silver coin. Now, the government is not honoring that. They're saying you have to figure out market value on that $15,000, right? So they want you to pay a tax or a gain on the difference that they've devalued their own currency. Now, you're not really making anything. All you did is you are just preventing a loss from a prior time. All I'm doing is I'm just holding, silver coins, not to make money, but not to lose money. I don't want to lose money. So basically, the government wants to tax me for not losing money, like the rest of the morons out there. But if they will accept silver if you have to pay them off. So say you have $10,000 in back taxes, right? They will accept 10,000 silver coins only at face value. They won't accept them at the same inflated rate that they want you to pay the taxes on. So at the same time, the government is just screwing you over both ways. And the Federal Reserve was never even in the Constitution. It was there to a point that if we had more people, we inflated the currency a little bit more. If we had less people, we contracted the currency a little bit more. It was just meant to keep it elastic, to keep it going, but not to inflate, not to pay off our debts. It was merely just there to keep things in check and in balance. And now, as we know, that's just not happening. So, in the past year and a half, all of the bonds, all of our debt has been actually, about 70% of it's been purchased by our Federal Reserve. So what does that mean? It basically means the United States is buying our own debt back and then just printing it off just to pay it off. And what's going to happen? Well, what happened in Germany right after World War I? They had insane inflation where their currency, over the course of a day, would double in its inflated price. So people would go and they would get a whole paycheck, and by the time they got to the store to buy the bread that they were going to buy the paycheck with, they couldn't afford the bread because the bread had went up. It's too much in price in the course of a day. People would actually steal. They would have wheelbarrows full of money going back and forth to pay off things. People would steal the wheelbarrow, burn the money, because the wheelbarrow was worth more than the money that was in it. Now, they did the exact same thing we're doing. They were monetizing their debt. Now, when does it stop here for the Federal Reserve? Bernanke is already talking about quantitative easing 3. We just did QE1 and QE2. So whenever QE3 comes around, He's not going to stop. And the thing is, he doesn't even have to tell us that he's doing it. So you're going to be seeing a lot of states coming up that are going to just start rebelling. I mean, you have the Free State Project up in New Hampshire, where there's a goal of 20,000 people who are libertarian thinkers, like myself, who sign up, and then once they reach 20,000 people on the organization of the group, they then have to move to New Hampshire to create a nice little stronghold, which is something that I'm all for. I am actually thinking about it. It would be quite awesome. All right, well, I'm going to get going. I have a test in economics here in about an hour, and it looks like I'm over my 10-minute limit, so this will take a half hour to upload. All right, well, have fun. Talk some more maybe on Monday, and talk to you later.